Shaggy, and welcome to it. It is the live show for today, and today we're going to get all touchy-feely with ourselves. No, trust me, you will like this show. As a matter of fact, at the end of this show, you'll probably like yourself a little bit better. As we start off each and every show, got to thank the interns that are running it. They're on that side of the glass, and invite you to join us. Let's get ready to roll the intro. And 3, 2, roll the intro. Let's go.
Live from beautiful downtown Kahului, on the #1 island destination on planet Earth, the Valley Isle, Maui. From the Akaku studio at Halfway to Hell Plaza, it's live. And now, a man that's known far, but not wide. It's Shaggy!
Show, if you are just joining us for the first time, hi. My guest today will be talking to Rhonda Felix. Rhonda Felix is from Soul Space Maui, and today's subject is one that is kind of close to all of our hearts, which is ourselves. We're talking about self-love. Now, before I get into what we mean by this, because a lot of people are going, oh, Shaggy, wow, why are you doing a show about the kind? It's not that kind of a show. Before we get into that, let's get a little background about you. First off, Rhonda,
yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shaggy. It's my pleasure to be here. It's exciting.
I am so glad that we have somebody like you in here, and we'll find out in just a bit. But first, where are you from?
Earth?
Well, that narrows it down for our alien visitors. No.
No, I was born in California, but I've been here on Maui about 40 years.
40 years?
40 years. So, and my children were all born and raised here, so I'm in Wailuku now. So is that better?
No, that's great. It's great. You know, I mean, it's Wailuku, but...
Yes, but I'm a California girl.
Ah. And you are with an organization, or at least you're with Soul Space Maui. What is Soul Space?
Soul Space is a place within yourself that by grace that you find. But Soul Space Maui Renewal Center is the name of my healing center.
Oh, so when we're talking about, like, the space that you occupy within yourself, the soul space, where did you get the idea to actually name something like that? Because a lot of people are like, it's just me, myself, and I.
I have my son, Sterling, helped me with that name. In fact, he actually came up with it about 6 years ago.
6 years ago.
6 years ago.
And you've been going by this ever since. Now, a lot of people, when they come to your centers, what exactly are they looking for the most?
So healing is three-legged stool: physical, mental, spiritual. So physical, I'm a massage therapist. I do reflexology. I have an acupuncturist in the center right now, Michael Howden. So we have physical aspects. Mental is classes. Classes on Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life, classes on different people from the community come and teach classes. And then the spiritual would be learning about prayer and meditation. So all three components.
You know, and this is the funniest thing that every so often I research random things. If you take the Fortune 500 list, the top 5 companies that are on that list, each one of the CEOs of that company engages in transcendental meditation. Why do you think that guys of that caliber, of multi-billion-dollar companies and huge responsibilities, rely on something as easy as meditation?
Because it's a place where you learn to relax and you learn to receive what is given to you, direction, spirit, however you want to look at that. There's a lot of different terminology. But you look at Deepak Chopra and Oprah, they're big into meditation. You're right. Anybody who is successful takes time to quiet the mind.
And that's one of the things that just really shocked me, though. I mean, we're talking about like Tim Cook now, but before that, Steve Jobs was a huge one. A couple of the major developers in Microsoft companies, Oracle, all of these guys take at least 5 to sometimes 20, maybe even an hour, depending on how well they're paid, each day, and they meditate. Now, what is, because I want to go ahead and let you know I'm an idiot when it comes to this sort of thing. So what is the main goal of when a person sets down to meditate?
So let's just look at that word meditation, because there's a lot of beliefs. Most people think meditation means to sit on the floor cross-legged and to om. And the older we get, the harder it is to sit on the floor cross-legged and to om. There's many different types of meditation. There's that type that comes right to our mind, where we go into a silence. There's contemplative meditation, where you may either look at nature and you're in awe by it, or you look at a piece of poetry or a reading that inspires you. That is contemplative meditation. There's walking meditation. The Buddhists are big into walking, where you focus on your footsteps, being in the present moment. Generally, meditation is about being here now, bringing your mind, which we all have a monkey mind, into this time. Some of us find that centering meditation challenging, so we like contemplative is easier. It's easier for a person like myself. I have a very chattery little mind, and I think the pressure of thinking it has to be a certain way makes most of us say, well, I'm not going to even bother doing it because I can't.
So when we're going into the meditative mindset, essentially what we're trying to do, for people that have never done this before, is you're trying to get rid of the background chatter around the thought that you want to focus on?
Well, the background chatter and then the thought you want to focus on, the thought that you would want to focus on would be a positive thought. So you want to focus on something of gratitude or inspiration, something that brings you joy, as opposed to something that brings you worry or fear.
No. Okay, so let's say that I have like a problem here at work, okay? And I go and I think, oh, well, I'm going to meditate on this, because we hear this, especially in, guys that I used to work around, the reggae community. Let me meditate on this. Let me meditate on this. But what you're saying is you can't meditate on something that's causing you frustration. Why is that?
Well, you want to step back from it. If something's causing us frustration and we step deeper into it and we think about it more, we have no space there to see a different side or to receive a solution or an idea that may support us in changing it. If we keep focusing on the problem and banging our head with it, I mean, we've all done it, where I'm worried about something or I'm concerned and I just keep sticking on it. It doesn't shift because I have no space in there to allow a different perspective or moment to give me a breath. So the idea is to create space, to allow relaxation, be it with music. Some people meditate by music. There's some incredible music is one of those vibrational things, which you're very aware of, that can just change your whole vibration of your body in a moment by listening to it.
Yeah, and I mean, science has backed this up. Years and years and years of science says that music makes the mind go.
Yes.
But it's so interesting to me when we talk about meditation, is some people actually do use it as medication.
That's true.
I have insomnia. I've heard of a lot of people going the natural route of treating their insomnia just by doing a little bit of meditation in the evenings to help slow the body down. Now, that's something I've never heard of. So, briefly, if I were to ask you, how does that work? How is it that the mind controls so much of the body that we don't even realize we're making our bodies worse by what we're thinking?
Our ego is a very strong force. Our ego is so strong that we think that we are it.
Well, when you say it, I'm thinking that there might be two letters attached to that. So, but no, you're right. Everybody sees themselves as the star of their own movie.
Correct. And if you didn't, who else is going to? But in reality, it helps when we come to that place in our lives where we realize there is something. And it doesn't have to be God. That word is so beaten and has so many belief systems that attach to it. But something greater than this sitting right here that supports me. Something is supporting me. Something is allowing me. and we could go into a whole debate about that, what science says, what different religions say, but we're not talking about religion right now.
No.
We're putting religion way out the door. We're talking about an inner place, a place of peace. And how do we get that? By finding joy. What brings you joy? What brings me joy? Sometimes if I sit down, I might think about the laughter of my grandchildren. If I want to bring myself to a happier space, to think about something happier.
Okay, now just let's talk about the happy mind versus the sad mind for a second. This is something that, like I said, we'll stick with science here. This is something that has always intrigued me. But if you're feeling down, if you're feeling a little, maybe my makeup's not that good today, maybe I've got a receding hairline, maybe I host a second-rate television show, who knows? Whatever it is that bothers you that day, those thoughts actually sabotage you. How do we let ourselves sabotage ourselves so much?
Because first of all, that's how we're brought up. Most of us are not brought up to think that our thoughts create our reality. But before we even go down that road, do you believe that you're energy?
Do I believe that I am a energy? Well, like I said, keeping hard to, the way that I believe that everybody is some sort of energy.
Correct.
You are in two states at any time, potential and kinetic.
So energy.
Yes, energy.
We're energy, and everything is energy. It's just different forms of energy. I'm energy, my dress is energy, my hair, this piece of paper, this ring, it's all energy. My thoughts are energy. Your thoughts are energy. My feelings are energy. Everything is energy. So when we get back to that thought, how does a down thought like, my hair is turning gray and I'm aging, and if I'm focusing on that, how does that affect my overall state of being? If it's negative or it's down, it kind of feeds into itself. And then if there's that thing called the law of attraction, that as you sow, so shall you reap. As I focus on something negative, it seems to get bigger.
And see, this is a thing that really intrigues me, because not only for decades, centuries, have we had people in the meditation field saying, focus on the positives and achieve the positives, but now we have science and medicine coming up and saying, no, seriously, if you focus on the positives, your brain stops sabotaging itself. Why do you think it took us, Western civilization, the high advanced society that we are, so long to come to what essentially seems a simple truth?
I don't know if it's taken that long. I just think that it's becoming more in the forefront. More people are openly discussing it. But here's a real true point, that thinking isn't always going to change the mood. If what we think is not in alignment with how we feel, the feelings trump the thought. So if I'm saying, I'm aging and I'm beginning to not feel good about myself, and I have a feeling inside that says I'm not good enough, no matter if I change the thought to I'm beautiful no matter the age, that's not going to work. I have to get to the feeling. And this is where we sometimes get confused in this kind of, let's just say new age time. We just can't speak an affirmation and have it work. We have to have the feeling supporting it.
And that's one of the weirdest things, because you would think that now, as we're going into what we call the information age, that information like this is readily available. You would figure, at the end of the day, more people would step forward and say, wow, it's not really what's going on the surface. I need to go further than that and investigate the source. Just like doctors, you don't treat the symptoms, you treat the disease. How do we get people that have never experienced meditation, have never experienced any sort of introspectiveness, in a controlled environment, how do you convince them that this is something not only that they need to do, but is actually necessary for their daily happiness?
Let's just look at what the normal person's life looks like. They have children. Now we're talking about the younger person. Now the older person's got plenty of time. The younger person that's has a full-time job, a career is important. They've got, either they have a family or they've got animals or they've got something that's requiring their time. They go out the door, they work 16-hour day or whatever they're plugged into. People work more and more and more. And when they get home, they're worried about either feeding themselves or feeding the group, and financially, how is that all working? To suggest to that person, when you get home, after you feed everyone and put everyone to bed, it'd be a great idea if you meditated. It might be the last thing they're willing to step into. So I think it could be looked at differently.
And see, this is the greatest thing, because we're sitting here and we're talking about looking at things differently. It's all leading to what you're doing, which is, well, we're talking about the new program that you got where you're teaching people about themselves and about how they feel about themselves. Now, before we go in and embrace of how to teach somebody to love themselves, because we honestly could do about 4 or 5 shows on that, let's go into the common things. When somebody approaches you about this low, bad feeling that they have about themselves, inside of themselves, how do you walk that person through the process of discovering the solution?
First of all, they have to be open and willing. If someone isn't coming to me, I have learned that I can't go to them. And we've all had this experience where someone we know is really struggling. If they ask us for help, we're there, and we can help them up. But if they're not asking, it's like wasting your time, in a sense. And not that we wouldn't want to help each other, but we've all known people that just didn't want to change. They liked where they are. So it's important to discern that a person has to have the desire to change.
And this is real crazy to me, because as a society, we've moved away, at least in the past 20 years of my life, from the communal way of existing into more of an individualistic, me-first mentality. But this is really damaging to people.
What we've lost is we're not meant to do this alone. We are not. We're not meant to raise children alone. You're not meant to... You're just not meant to live alone. We need interaction. We need support. And people find it either in a program or in a church or some community that supports. That's important. Like-minded people. It could be a club. It doesn't matter. But support people that you feel comfortable and you know that if you needed help, they would help you.
And those people are getting harder and harder to find. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they're getting harder, or maybe we need to broaden our willingness to ask.
Oh, really?
We are not brought up with it's okay to ask.
That is true. See, when I was growing up, I started life somewhere in the 70s. Oof. And as I was growing up, the first formative years of my life was my parents telling me, hey, look, if your neighbor needs help, you help your neighbor, because you never know. They're going to stick their head over the fence one day and you're going to need help, and guess who's there?
Right.
Those lessons, though, as time goes on, seem to be going away. Did you have any guess of why we're programming ourselves not to rely on ourselves anymore?
I don't know that answer. I just know that it's partially is because we're told you can do it, you do it, get out there and beat them. There is no beating them. We have this idea of separation that we're not supposed to be part of. Mm-hmm. That if I'm joining or supporting you, then I'm losing my lead on you.
Wow.
When there is no lead, you see, truly, we're meant to help each other. Where I really saw this is I mentored or viewed a preschool on Oahu called Unity Preschool. Mm-hmm. And the children there are taught to learn to ask for help. They bring out their lunch, the children get out their lunch boxes, and as teachers you stand there and you're not allowed, but you don't rush up to the child and open their thermos for them. You let the child do it, and then if they can't do it, then they ask for help. You encourage them to ask, because it's in asking that we receive. To go in and just do for someone without them asking, it isn't empowering.
And see, that's so important to what you're doing at Soul Space, because when we get into exactly how you're helping people discover themselves, this is one of the questions that's really, really out there is, are people, by nature, right now in civilization, going against the nature of humans? Have we taught ourselves to be so independent that the actual communal nature of the human tribe has gone away for good?
You know, I call me a Pollyanna, but I don't like to focus on where I just know that if as I grow and change, that the whole thing can grow and change. Louise Hay, who is one of my mentors, and I'm a teacher for her work, says there's so much in the world that needs help. But right now, if I work on helping myself, then I am helping the world.
Now, real quick, what are just some of the basic things that if you're a person that's sitting here listening to this program today and you're saying, you know, she's right, I need to help myself. How do you start on the process of going from being all confused to actually helping yourself and setting yourself up to a position of being able to help others?
Well, first you want to help yourself. And how you would do that is start looking at some of the beliefs that you say to yourself. We all have an internal critic. We all probably, some of us grew up with more of a critic than others. And the older you get, your awareness of that critic. So you have to listen. What do you tell yourself when you look in the mirror? Oh my God, you look like something the cat dragged in? Or do you say, I see in your eyes what a beautiful, bright being you are? Do you acknowledge the truth about yourself, or do you get hung up on something that you think isn't perfect?
That's something that always confuses me, because when I'm standing in front of the mirror, and I know that I am the average person, I'm looking into the mirror to identify flaws.
Right.
That's wrong, though.
Well, what does it do for you?
Well, you know, me, coming from the whole guy mentality, you point out a flaw so that you can fix it. But we're talking about something that genetically I can't fix.
Correct. And so, and yes, we look in the mirror to get the spinach out of our teeth or to fix our eyebrows or whatever we're required in this time, in this society, to look presentable. But what we want to look for is really look deep into the eyes, because that's where the soul is in the eyes. And that's where how you notice when you meet someone, either they talk to you and look to you in the eyes, or they look away. If someone isn't looking at you and connecting with you, you don't feel very connected. So that's how we connect with ourself.
Wow. Do you think, honestly, that people are as connected to themselves these days as they were, say, 25 years ago?
I would imagine it's really all the same. We've just, with media and everything being in the moment, we're just much more aware of it. I don't think that we're, the exposure is greater.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if, I just think that looking and moving towards inner peace has always been the same.
Wow. So, and I especially want to get into it after we take our bottom of the hour break, but real briefly, let's just talk a little bit about what you're doing with Soul Space and the program that we have on our flyer out on the desk. You're talking about helping people's self-esteem, specifically youth, correct?
At this time, yes. I am a teacher and I do work with adults. That's where I've spent most of my time, is working with adults. But in the last few years, I've done some training, and I have a strong desire to help children, because if children get the understanding of how their thoughts and words create their reality, they've got a much better chance at it than dealing with an adult who's got 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of beliefs that are no longer serving them. It's easier to work with a child than an adult.
And this is what gets me too. When we were talking earlier, you had said about surrounding yourself with the type of environment and the type of people that you want to grow and be like. Some kids, honestly, don't have that great parents. And they don't have that example that they go to every day. For working with people that may not have a good example of good humanity around them, what's some of the things that you have to do? I mean, how do you tell them this is right, this is wrong, this is what you look at? I mean, how do you evaluate all that?
Well, one of the first things we always do is lead by example. I remember my parents would say, don't do as I do, but do as I say.
Mm-hmm.
As they're smoking cigarettes and drinking or whatever. However that goes. Again, a child has to want to know. I can't tell anyone anything that's not open to it. But children are generally curious.
And with kids, this is a very crucial time in your development as a human life form. When you're in your teen years, a lot of the insecurities, a lot of the securities, the confidence, all of them stem from how we were in our developmental ages. Even me, in my 30s, a lot of this crazy shenanigans stuff started back when I was 15 and 14. When you're doing this program with kids, are you trying to tell them, look further down the road at what your life could be? Or are you trying to say, let's look firmly at what you are and how you feel right now and reflect on it?
Well, I would say it's a little more the latter of what you said. But do you know that truly by 7, a child's development and feelings about themselves are already in place?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Well, and okay, so let's... my childhood was far from perfect. And most of us are not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very important to realize that whoever raised us did the very best they could with the tools that they had and the knowledge. And in the work that I do teach, forgiveness is key.
Wow.
You have to forgive those people that we believe harmed us so that we can move on.
But what if you're one of these people, let's say, like, I have a personality type that everything that I do on a grand scale, sometimes I sabotage myself. What do you do in those cases when you meet somebody that just kind of sabotages themselves when things are going great?
So we would look at what is it you believe about yourself? What is it you think you deserve? Because for all of us, somewhere in there, we believe we're not enough. We all have it. All of us. We all got a piece of it. Some of us got bigger pieces than others. That is what that belief is at the basis of all miscommunication.
Wow. Even miscommunicating with yourself? Because you would think that talking to yourself, this is going to be the one person that you can really be honest with. But it sounds like you're saying that we're not really honest with ourselves.
No, our ego likes to come in and snowball us or trick us into believing that we're okay. We always know, but we don't always listen. And that's where getting quiet, taking quiet time to allow ourselves to separate from ego.
And talking about ego is the side of you that is not rooted in your logical skills. It can basically go good or bad with the wind, right?
Well, yes, but it's the part that thinks that it's the part that gets hurt when someone doesn't acknowledge it. It's the part that gets that's overly sensitive. It's the part that wants to be acknowledged.
That part.
That part.
Okay. Well, we have to acknowledge a break here in just a second.
Breaks are good.
Yeah, breaks are good. But when we get back from the break, I want to spend some time talking about kids and their mental well-being, because a lot of the stuff that you're going to be doing with the program, this is what it's going to focus on. So
Yes.
stick around after the break and then we'll do it. And then also we can invite people, if you want to, you can call the show. 877-6363. Plus, got a big announcement here. Now, if you missed the shows here at 5 o'clock, tonight at 11, you can see it again. But
Exciting.
I know, right? It's like they do so much stuff around here. Don't even tell me about it until I'm halfway through the show.
Well, you didn't need to know.
No, I didn't. But they needed to know. So
Yeah.
You stick around after the break. We'll come back and talk more about meditation, more about finding your own soul space, and how important it is for kids to know all of this stuff. All right? So join us here, 88.5, and, of course, Akaku, Channel 55. We'll be right back.
Did you know? These 6 major corporations control 90% of the media in North America. Akaku is public access TV, run by the people, for the people. Akaku is Maui County's agent of free speech and community media. Federal laws require cable companies to provide financial support for all public access programming. Akaku is your public access resource, and we're open 5 days a week. Community members can learn to use the equipment and tools needed to exercise their free speech. It's easy, too. Now you know.
At Akaku's Maui Community Television, we are committed to employing your access to media. Our goal is to certify community producers that will go out and create meaningful and local content for our viewing community. Akaku's Media Lab now offers classes in Apple Final Cut Pro 10, professional editing software. This class will cover basic editing skills and Final Cut Pro's 10 systems available at Akaku. With a maximum of 8 students to every instructor and 1 student per editing system, students will receive intimate and hands-on training.
You're listening to Akaku. And we are back at Shaggy. Joining me in the studio today is a woman that knows all about the space of your soul. It's Rhonda Felix. Thanks for staying on the show today. Oh, God. Well, this is something I thought that would be interesting. And during the break, we were talking about just how much of a novice I am and all of this stuff. And how a lot of people listening to us on 88.5 or watching us for the first time on Channel 55 might not be ready for this procedure. And it's a simple procedure when you start meditation, but when it goes to other places, that's left pretty much up to the person themselves, right?
Right, and I think it happens gradually, so there's no whatever happens. What really all happens is that you step into a place of relaxation. And to think that it's about hearing bells or whistles blowing, we all have our own individual experience, but it's something that comes gradually. It's not something that's going to bowl you over and your life will never be the same. I mean, you might start noticing that you're not so reactionary in your day. That's the goal about meditating, is not to take all of this so personally.
So that's like saying that your brain is just like every other part of the human body, and if you exercise it the right way, it gives you the right results.
It's like a computer chip. And what do you do when you on your computer when your computer is full?
Oh, you clean it out.
Right, you empty the trash. So that is a way of looking at meditation, is emptying the trash of your mind.
Oh, God. Can I get a county truck? I got a lot of garbage up here.
We all do.
What's some of the biggest problems, or at least should I say, what are some of the biggest concerns of a new student that approaches you? What are some of the questions that are the obvious? Well, do I have to sit on the floor and om all day? Is there a specific place that I have to do it? Is there a time of day? Do I face east? What's some of the crazy questions you get?
Well, I don't really get... meditation is part of a program that I teach, so it's not the main thing that people come to me in awe about or in concern about. The biggest challenge is always I'm not too sure I can change my thinking, or I'm not too sure I can handle what's going to happen if I change things. You see, even if life isn't very comfortable, change, we don't know what that brings. Sometimes we'd rather stay in what's uncomfortable than move into something of unknown.
So, for a lot of people, they would stay in something that is absolutely terrible just for the fear that if they make a move, it could get more terrible.
Well, how many people do we know that stay in relationships that they're not comfortable with? They stay in a job they're not comfortable with. They stay in all the things we stay in as humans because we're afraid of what might be. At least we can count on the uncomfortability of what we're doing.
So how do you deal with the fear part of it?
And that's part of looking at what is the belief. What do I believe I deserve? What do I really want? You know, if I don't know what I want, then I kind of get what comes along.
Wow. So essentially, a lot of the circumstances in people's everyday lives seems to be, at least from that explanation, more of a fear of changing into the unknown so that they follow these patterns until ad nauseum later it's driving them insane. Is that the correct way?
Well, if their lives aren't working and they're not sure what to do and they'd rather stay where they are, yes, that would explain that well. But people who are ready to change come, and then they have to start looking at the belief systems. And when I work with people, either individually or in a class, we start looking at the belief systems about what we learned from, generally our parents are who raised us, whoever raised us. You know, what did they tell you that you deserve, and what do you think you deserve? What are your experiences with that?
So even if somebody who wasn't tight with you, like a real good personal friend, even a random comment from them could just come back and bite you in the head like years later? I mean,
well, maybe there was a time in my life when they could, because I was that sensitive, and my sensitivity was out of control, let's say. Being sensitive is a gift, but being sensitive and not learning about how to protect myself or understanding how I can be reactionary makes life challenging at best, because you're reacting to everything that comes at you. You take it so personally. How dare you say that to me and hurt my feelings?
And that's just one of the things that I've heard too. A lot of people say anger is not an emotion. It's actually a reaction, and the emotion's happening behind it. Is that kind of the same thing?
I would say so, yes, that we are used to behaving in a certain way based on a pattern. So to change it, we have to go back and see, when did it start? How long have I been acting like this? And generally, you can trace it back to either as a young child or as a teen. You see a foundation.
Well, this is interesting because I actually have a story for you.
Okay, I love stories.
I love telling this story because this is one of the things that, guys don't typically think somebody like me would hear. Back when I was 14, I had a crush on a girl. Decided to ask her out. Do you know what she told me?
She either told you yes or no.
Oh, no, she didn't tell me that. That would have been far too pleasant. No, she said, in her words, I would never be seen with somebody as ugly as you. Do you know how long that stuck with me?
That had to really hurt. Let's face it. At 14, how vulnerable you are, first of all, to even ask someone out, and then to be met with that.
Oh, yeah. I had a real nice neighborhood I grew up in. But that shaped the way, and I did not realize this until I was almost 30 years old, that shaped every single day of how I saw myself in the mirror. And it can be something that simple that trips people up.
That's right. Sometimes we think it has to be a traumatic thing that happened that stuck with you, but it could be a momentary conversation with someone, and that's a great example of that.
So let's for me, it took a lot of years of just kind of being out there on my own, and finally, one day, it clicked. Why do I hate looking at myself in the mirror? Well, because I was told that the reflection in that I'm looking at is ugly, and that's the way my brain has treated my self-image ever since then. How would somebody like me, let's say if I came to you and I needed advice, how would we go about finding the problem and dealing with it?
Well, you've already got the time. You've already got the situation that triggered it.
Mm-hmm.
But what we haven't looked at, and which you probably, is the person who said it. And if you know anything about that person's life, what that young lady's life was, what was her family like? How comfortable was she in her own skin? I mean, were people abusing her that she felt that she had to abuse you? Is that the kind of things that she had heard about herself and she needed to pass it on to someone else? I don't know. Do you know anything?
Well, yeah, I do. They were a very well-to-do, middle-class family, highly popular in school, community, and church. Didn't seem to be a whole lot of flaws there.
Well, but you see, closed doors are another thing. We really don't know what's transpiring in someone's life. We might think we know. But it sounds to me like she had a wound in her. Something about her had to react mean. She was mean. That's a mean-spirited thing to say. So regardless of her, it doesn't seem like we have any information that would understand why she would talk that way.
Right.
The one thing for you that you would want to do, or someone in your situation, is to forgive her. Now, forgiving does not mean condoning. And sometimes people get, I'm not going to forgive her because that means that was okay. No, it wasn't okay.
A lot of people act like that. It's
Yes.
like once you say, I forgive you, it's like, and it goes both ways because another person will say, oh, you forgive me? That means I can do it again.
Right. No, it does not mean that. It doesn't mean condoning the behavior. But forgiveness, so let's get back to I'm energy, you're energy.
Mm-hmm.
This person is energy. When we are tied up with someone that has hurt us and we think about that, we take our energy, which is our thoughts, and give them to that person. All right? So we're giving that person our juice.
Oh.
And odds are that person's had your juice for 20 years.
Yeah.
Part of it. What forgiveness does, it helps us cut the cord where we take back our energy. Forgiveness isn't really about the other person. It's about ourselves and taking back our energy and refilling ourselves and moving on.
So how do we get depleted in the first place? Not just from attaching ourselves to negative thoughts and energies of others, but also, do we do it to ourselves in some sort of way? Is it possible for a person to go through their day and as they go to concentrate more on negative?
Well, because we do it even by not honoring ourselves. Someone says, would you mind watching the kids tonight when you get home from work? And I think, oh, you know what, I'm tired. I really wanted to put my feet up and maybe watch a movie. But yeah, I'll watch the kids. Is that honoring myself? No. So that's one example. But what I watch the kids, yes. So that maybe wasn't a fair one. But
They're kids.
yes,
you know?
but doing something that's not the best for me, but it's good for you. Putting your needs before mine. So that's how we deplete ourselves all day long.
And people that are considered helpful and are considered helpful consistently, we don't ever see, at least for the ones that get help from them, we don't ever see that usually the people most successful in helping others have taken the time to help themselves.
Well, that's really the bottom line. You have to heal and take care of yourself before you have anything to give anyone else. You can't give someone if you're depleted. And mothers need this. There was a book written by Anne Morrow Lindbergh called Gifts from the Sea, and it's about replenishing yourself. When you're a young mother or a mother with children and a family, you give, you give, you give. But if you don't replenish yourself, either by an hour, 2 hours, some time in a week, a day, a month, you run out of charge.
How do you convince somebody, if they don't know it, that they're depleted?
Generally, they have to get sick to get the clue, or mentally out there. Generally, none of us get a clue until we've hit the wall.
you can get physically sick off of mental thinking?
Oh my gosh! Well, there are all kinds of theories that say your body is based on your thoughts, that your thinking creates your health. Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, that's what her book's all about, that all diseases are based on thought patterns.
God, so like even the disease of just feeling icky at night about yourself, that's something that you can actually I guess start the regimen of self-healing and actually fix yourself?
By changing your thoughts. But let's look at that. We're a three-legged stool, physical, mental, and spiritual. What did I eat today? How did I take care of myself? Did I go? Did I rest? Did I look in the clouds and say, God, isn't it phenomenal here? Isn't it beautiful? Somehow did I put some space in there to replenish myself?
Well, using your stool analogy here, let's go with the three-legged stool of this.
Yes.
We'll have mind, which is thoughts, and we will have body of how you take care of your physicality, and then we'll have this spiritual leg.
Which is the meditation.
Which is the meditation. How important is each one of these legs? Are they three legs that are all consistent sizes and all equally important, or is one of those legs holding the weight of the other two a little more?
Well, have you tried to sit on your stool if your legs weren't even?
Yes, and it was a disaster.
Right. So I think that this is my belief at this period of my life, is that when we're younger, we have huge amounts of energy, and we can run on that energy without refueling it.
Mm-hmm.
But there comes a point where it starts showing up. And I'm going to say it's somewhere between 35 and 40.
Really?
Where all of a sudden you slow down. You notice that you don't bounce back as quick. Your emotions maybe are beginning to come to the forefront. It's like the bell is being rung that you need to start taking care of yourself. And as you move into your 60s, if you haven't, you've got some real issues. But let me just preface something here. Even the holiest of saints have gotten sick. Illness is not always based on thought. I mean, as I mentioned, Louise Hay teaches that. But Carolyn Mace, who's another phenomenal metaphysical teacher, does teach that sometimes someone will become ill because they're a way shower for others. So it's not, I don't want people to start saying, well, I've got this illness, I must be really screwed up in my thinking. It's individual. We need to look and see, am I or am I not? But here's the other thing. When we get a little bit of information, like I have a little bit of information about metaphysics, that I go out and start taking other people's inventory. Like, you might tell me you have a sore throat, and I go, oh, ho, ho, he has a sore throat because he's not speaking his truth. Unless someone asks me, that's called metaphysical malpractice.
Oh, I like that.
I like that too. We can't go in and take someone else's inventory because we don't know. What's that thing? You don't know how it is until you walk in their moccasins.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. Even as much information as we think we have, we don't know. So keep our eyes on ourselves. Put my house in order.
So as a person that's sitting down and thinking right now, maybe I need to take a personal inventory of self. What is the right way? Because I know that if you do the inventory that I do, and I hate this and I hate that and that's out of whack and that's crap, that's not the way to do inventory.
Well, you can do it like that. Put down what's not working. And then go back and see, how long have I felt this way? Is this the first time I felt this way? I'm going to say by the time we're 35 to 40, there isn't a feeling we haven't already had.
Really?
Most of us have had the gamut.
Oh.
Right?
Either that or they've lived incredibly sheltered lives inside of studios for the past 20 years. This is the thing. You're teaching a youth program coming up in July, correct?
Yes.
What's the dates of that?
It's July 7th through the 11th, and then I think then it's the 14th through the end of that week. So actually it does start, there's one that starts this Monday also.
Really?
All weeks are standalone, but they also feed into each other.
And is this kind of the stuff that you're going to be covering with them?
Yes, but in a very subtle way. Children, it's to empower children to look at their thoughts, to learn respect for themselves, others, and the earth. That's what it's all about, learning respect for yourself. And that's where you and I run into problems at our age where we don't have respect for ourselves.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, if you're a kid, and one of my interns is like this, loves themselves, enjoy it while it lasts. Because in about 10 years from now, everything that you like is going to be,
Well, that's not necessarily true. That intern may have had a wonderful foundation as a child and got that they are worth loving and that they are incredible and that their family does support them and that it's okay to make mistakes because that's how we learn.
But some parents out there, I have to say, they actually do a disservice to telling their kids that they're infallible. When we have a society that props up people that feel that they can't fail, and then they actually have a little failure, that destroys them.
But let's look at it. When do you learn? You don't learn when it's all going good. You learn when an opportunity comes that didn't quite go the way you wanted. And we're not infallible. And you're right. That is the greatest disservice because they're going to go along and some girl's going to turn them down or tell them that they're weird or whatever, and their world will fall in. It's important to know that it's not perfect. We don't live in a perfect world.
And dealing with these kids, that's it's got to be kind of, I got to commend you on this. It's got to be kind of hard being an adult and translating very adult concepts and very adult feelings to an audience that may or may not have experienced them yet. Do you ever have trouble getting your message across?
Well, the curriculum is taught from a child's. I wouldn't teach them the exact same words I would use with you. All right, it's into child terminology or understanding. Children learn through stories. They learn through videos. They learn through interaction. They learn through art. They learn through movement. They learn through music. It's not all just about sitting down and here it goes. That's how we learn. And what they really need to, or the idea of it is that they're loved and that they deserve to be loved. That's what we all deserve.
Okay, now I was a class clown.
Really?
And yeah, please. With a job like this, you couldn't tell that that's what I was?
So was I.
Yeah. I was the class clown. And every so often, when I would go through my philosophy classes and things like that, I got a little, this is hokey, this is crazy. So when you have a kid like that, because honestly, I wish at those moments I would have paid attention to the lesson. It would have made my life better had I not clowned my way through these big concepts. But if you have a class clown, how do you tell them, look, this is important?
Well, again, you can't give something to someone that doesn't want it. But there's a class clown in every class. Every class I've ever taught with an adult has had one person that acts out. That's nature. That person acts out for the whole class. You do your best to put out your hand. But here's the truth, Shaggy. You wouldn't be who you are today if you didn't have all those lessons and experiences in the way that you received them.
So even if I didn't glean the master knowledge, I got just enough of the spit shine to make it through.
Well, and now you're open. Now, your life isn't over.
And see, that's one thing, too. It's like when you're a teenager, you think that there's such a finality to everything. That if this happens, this is the worst that's ever happened.
And it is at that moment in time. I remember wanting my hair to grow. Oh, my God, I wish my hair would grow.
Are you kidding me? I still want my hair to grow. Look at this. Every night.
That's all part of that time in our lives. And for them to get a picture of support, that there's something greater than that, is important.
How do you do it, though, with a younger crowd that may not be as self-aware as we are as adults? How do you get them to that point of self-awareness?
First, you acknowledge their feelings. You acknowledge that their feeling is important, and you hear them because their feelings are important. And most of us in that age group did not get heard. So then what happens to that energy and those feelings? They get distorted, they get pushed down, and then they come out in an odd way.
Okay.
You start, experimenting with things, which is not a bad thing either. That's part of life. But getting stuck in things that are detrimental.
People find themselves in detrimental circumstances, it seems, by their own design. In your experience, when you're working with this younger group that you are, is that what you're trying to prevent, of giving them the mental tools so that they don't fall a victim to themselves?
Well, of course, to love themselves so they make healthier, whole choices. Isn't that, if you look at your life and I look at my life, loving myself, when I was a teenager, I had no idea about loving myself. And now we're not talking about ego love.
No.
We're not talking about how I look or how it shines. We're talking about that inner feeling of being enough.
What's the way that you would know in a feeling that you're actually engaging in the right kind of love?
Because you feel good, you feel joyful, you feel happy, you feel grateful to be alive.
So when you're doing the ego and, oh, look at my hair and look at my face and my body and all of this, that's putting you in a very temporary state of amusement.
Well, of course, because then if I look and my hair isn't right and I'm crushed, then what does that say? That's saying that I'm basing myself on something outside of myself, a temporary thing, because we all know that the body changes. No matter what we do, it will change. So I better have something stronger going on than that.
Yeah, like my mom said, find somebody that's a good conversationalist, not a good looker. You're going to have the conversation a lot longer than you will the body.
Well, isn't that, and that's true, but at a certain age, that doesn't seem to make sense, because that's not what we're attracted to. Unless we got messages about developing that part of ourselves, then we would be open to that.
What is, would you say, through the program and everything that you're doing, what is your message for kids?
Love yourself the way you are.
Is that so hard?
Of course it's hard. We don't live in a society that supports loving yourself the way you are. You have to be richer, thinner, prettier, have more expensive clothes, have the latest technological thing. That's when you know that you can love yourself, when you've got that stack. And how many people really have that stack?
You're right. See, a lot of people, when they talk about their happiness, it's happiness tied up in acquisition. It's happiness tied up in tangible material things.
Yes.
It's not happiness is, you know what, I woke up today, I took a deep breath, and my lungs still work. I'm happy.
Right, or I looked outside and went, my God, is Eow Valley incredible, or isn't Haleakala, aren't we lucky we live here? People come here to visit. We're so fortunate. The world is an incredibly beautiful place. There is beauty everywhere, not just on Maui, but we're in a very prime spot.
I'm telling you, it really is. And we're in a prime spot too. If you watch sports, this is the 2-minute warning. We're at like the end of the show. Okay, so let's say that I have watched this show and I've said, God, that Rhonda Felix, she is an interesting character. Where would I go to find out more about you?
I have a website. It's www.soulspace, Maui.com. I'm at the swap meets on Saturday. I do reflexology out there. I love to rub feet, so if you ever want your feet rubbed, I'm in.
Somewhere in there.
I'm out there somewhere.
Yeah. Look for the lady rubbing feet.
Yes.
Yeah. The really friendly one that's content and happy with her life.
I'm not always. I'm here learning too. So I'll get real. We all have moments.
Oh God! No, what are the dates again? So if anybody's interested,
starting this Monday, the 23rd,
mm-hmm.
and then July 7th, and then July 14th, all for a week. And they're standalone weeks. They all tie together, and it is a Christian-based program. It is faith-based, so the children will learn about God and their relation to God and self.
No, but it's going to be something that's very uplifting and very positive for the kids.
It is very positive, and they've got some great teachers. It's going to be a fun time. I'm going to have fun.
God, I wish I was young enough to go, but obviously
you could
from
come
the hairline.
anyway.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Shaggy. It was a joy, and I look forward to coming again.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to invite you back. All right, well, that's it for our show today. Sorry. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to have a guy, a very interesting guy. He's got tattoos and piercings. His name's Kanoa. You'll want to join us for that. Until tomorrow, though, got to thank the 2 interns.